It's finally happened. One of Zac Taylor's coaches has been hired away for a head coaching job. Brian Callahan to the Tennessee Titans.
You are Locked On Bengals, your daily Cincinnati Bengals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What up, Bengals fans, and welcome to a bonus episode, a bittersweet, sad, perhaps bonus episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast as Brian Callahan is headed for a head coaching job just a little bit south in Tennessee with the Titans. Went down there on Monday for an in-person interview, and they did not let him leave the building without moving to make him their next head coach. And we've been talking about this, James, for a while now in this off season, this young off season. Certainly for the last few episodes have been focusing in on the future for Brian Callahan and Dan Pitcher, who we'll also talk about today. But I just want to start out by congratulating Brian Callahan. Fantastic guest on this show. Did a great job as offensive coordinator with the Bengals. Great interview everywhere he's been. Really great guy to talk to in the bits we've been able to get to know him. And so thrilled for him as an individual and just wanted to start with a congratulatory message.
No, I think he's awful. I think you're screwed, Tennessee.
Yeah, we're too late. We're too late on that message.
0-17. 0-17. No, I'm just kidding. No, I think no, it's what we read, and if you want like true feelings about how he is as a coach, I think he's been a big part of what this Bengals team is, what this culture is, what this offense is, and through all of the ups, the downs, the ins, the outs, all of these things. This coaching staff, I feel like, has adjusted well on the fly, really each and every year that I've covered them. And sometimes it ends with the 5th overall pick, and in other times it's ended at the Super Bowl. So it's been a mixed bag, but he knows how to navigate that. And so I think my message and there will be Titans fans that watch this. I know this is Locked On Bengals, but you're getting a really good coach that's been around the league a long time, his entire life. Has coached some of the greats. I mean, great quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. And so when you think about a Will Levis, I don't know if he's going to be good or not, but you have the right guy around him to get the most out of him. And I do think he can build a culture. And I think he saw firsthand with what Zac did here in Cincinnati about how to do that. And that's probably the biggest thing that he learned. Of course, you learn experience stuff and offense and scheme and X's and O's, but the culture standpoint, I'm sure there were a lot of takeaways from his time here, 5 years. And now the longest tenured offensive coordinator is not in Cincinnati. That title lasted about 10 days or so. So that's a bummer.
Yeah. Sad to see him go, for sure. It's one of those thrilled for him, sad to see him go deals. We've talked about that a ton as well. Like I said, he's been great to us on this podcast, making himself available, giving time, giving great, insightful answers to our questions about the direction of the Bengals offense. And that kind of speaks to who he is, both in terms of how he is as a person and the way that he thinks, a very thoughtful person who we've seen how his thoughtfulness has led to transformations of this Bengals offense in season over the last few years, whether it's totally changing the run game, whether it's going to a full shotgun offense, scrapping the under center game, whether it's putting in a bunch of LSU concepts for Joe Burrow in his rookie year to acclimate him to NFL speed and make him comfortable instead of the stuff that Zac Taylor came to Cincinnati to do, which was to run the McVay under center shotgun or under center play action wide zone offense, which they've very much gone away from. And it's still part of the offense. I think we'll see it come back next year. That's another conversation. But Brian Callahan, part of those adaptations over time, making it such that the Bengals offense is matched to the personnel they have, playing to their strengths, making those adjustments in season and finishing with some pretty dang good offenses over his tenure in Cincinnati. So once again, thrilled for him. Think it's a great move for the Titans. Excited to hear his introductory press conference. Excited to see who he puts on that staff to fill it out. Does his dad leave the Browns and Bill Callahan go down to Tennessee to join his son? That's a big one. Yeah.
They need it, by the way. Those Titans linemen, they need a little Callahan molding, so to speak. But what happens to the Bengals OC job? Is it going to Jake Lisco? We'll discuss that coming up next.
4 verts. This bonus episode of Locked On Bengals brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Right now, you can get $150 in bonus bets with FanDuel, who have everything you need to bet on sports. All you have to do is place a $5 bet. Win or lose, you get $150 in bonus bets. And whether it's parlays, whether it's futures, we now know Brian Callahan got the job. You can't bet on that anymore. FanDuel.com has you covered. Check it out, FanDuel.com/lockedon, and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL.
We're also brought to you by Gametime. Look, the big game, well, you can get $100 off your ticket to the big game with promo code Vegas100. That's right, Vegas100. Gametime is the app that you need for last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals, whether it's sports, concerts, anything in between. And a reminder, again, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Right now, all Gametime users get $100 off a big game ticket with code Vegas100. That's VEGAS 100 for $100 off the big game ticket. Or if you're not going to the game, you want $20 off your next purchase, use promo code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase with Gametime. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Here's what I want to know, Jake, as I talk over you. Here's what I want to know. And I was trying to get ahead of you, so we didn't do that. But is Dan Pitcher the Bengals OC by the time it is, as we record this, 5:12 your time? It's 8:12 Eastern time. Will Dan Pitcher be the Bengals offensive coordinator? Maybe not officially, but reported by the time we set up and start recording on Tuesday.
It won't surprise me if he's the Bengals OC unofficially, maybe not reported, but unofficially as we record this today. It wouldn't surprise me if he has canceled his flights that he had for in-person interviews for OC spots around the NFL. Joe Goodberry, I think, tweeted that he was heading out to Vegas for an interview. We know that he's had conversations with the Saints. We know that he's had conversations with the Patriots. Won't surprise me if those are already in the past. The Bengals have done everything they need to do to secure Pitcher to be their future OC. That is my expectation right now, James.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think a couple of things. One, he's in demand. Two, I don't think the Bengals planned on letting him get out of the building if this scenario came up. And so I would be surprised if he gets on those flights.
Yeah.
I think we may have to break in a couple hours from now. You never know. It might be that quick. It might be one of those things where, man, I'm going to get knocked for making that sound, aren't I? Locked On's going to come after me like, we don't own that. Anyways, I do. I think that Dan Pitcher is going to be the next OC. And part of that is goes hand in hand with what I said on our episode that might not get as many listens earlier on Monday. And it's simple. I think Brian Callahan's going to call his own plays.
Mm-hmm.
He's waited 5 years to do this as OC, not calling his plays. I think he'll call his own plays in Tennessee. So assuming that's the case, and I'm pretty sure it is, then Dan Pitcher, it's not like he's following Brian there. Okay, well, do you want Joe Burrow and company, or do you want to go to the Raiders? Or do you want to go to the Patriots? Or do you want to go? I think you just hang here in Cincinnati and get some instant success, because that's what this Bengals offense has done in recent years. And I expect that to continue. So Dan Pitcher, I expect him to be the new offensive coordinator. As far as quarterbacks coach, Brad Cragthorpe, feels like it could be just in-house promotions. We'll see. But it feels like it might be that simple for Zac Taylor, which is a nice problem to have, no doubt.
I think that's the ideal succession plan for Taylor. Whether or not fans think it's ideal, because many fans want change, we'll see what the reaction is. And this could bring change. We talked about on that earlier episode that maybe people aren't checking out as much because this news has happened since we posted it, that there is a possibility that Dan Pitcher has some leverage to ask for play calling in Cincinnati. We'll see what happens there. It doesn't happen there. But Ian Rappaport did tweet, as you were talking, James, that the Bengals see Pitcher, of course, as the in-house replacement for Callahan. But he does say that there are interviews lined up with the Patriots on Zoom tomorrow, the Raiders, where he was supposed to be flying, and the Saints, all for in-person interviews this week. So we'll see if he keeps those interviews or not. That Rappaport tweet may be outdated by the time people listen to this, but it happened as you were talking, so I wanted to mention it.
Yeah, I'll say this to Dan Pitcher. Dennis Allen could get fired next year. It's a very similar situation to the Tampa job that you I think it's fair to say he hesitated to take last year because you just didn't know what was happening in the non-Tom Brady Bucks era. Obviously it worked out for their OC, but you didn't know it at the time. And so I think this Bengals OC job, it should be one of the most coveted OC jobs in the league.
Yes.
And Dan Pitcher, by the way, for those that are worried about promoting from within, he's one of the most coveted OC targets in the NFL. You just mentioned all these teams. All right. So and that's before these coaching jobs get filled. So there could be up to 10 teams that have asked about Dan Pitcher if he just hangs out and waits for all these jobs to get filled. So I would imagine that Dan Pitcher is quite a get if the Bengals can keep him around and keep him as OC. I think it makes a ton of sense. And you know who it's going to keep happy?
Joe,
the damn franchise, Joe Burrow, the guy who, if his wrist doesn't get hurt, we might be talking about an AFC championship game, that Joe. So I think that it's important to keep him around for sure.
We might be talking about Dan Pitcher stepping into an interim OC job on a short week with Callahan potentially getting a job if he was still and they were still in contention.
It would be like Zac Taylor where it's like handshake agreement. Yeah.
You would hope. Joe Burrow, Charlie Goldsmith pointed out earlier on Monday on Twitter, did say back a while ago that he and Pitcher mesh really well in the meeting room and on the sideline, have a great working relationship. I say this all the time, but couldn't ask for a better group of coaches for his skill set and what he does. That's Joe Burrow on Dan Pitcher. So you know that Burrow loves Pitcher. You know that Zac Taylor loves Dan Pitcher and loved having him and Callahan with him to put this offense together. So Pitcher, come on down. We'll see what happens with the rest of the Bengals coaching moves. Don't expect at this point external names to come in for any of the roles that will be vacated in Cincinnati, but I do expect to root for Brian Callahan in Tennessee, James. I'm a huge Brian Callahan fan. Go ahead.
You are. Even though, like I said, I think he's going to suck and go 0-17. I think, man, I hope he somehow gets wind of this. It'd be great.
Oh, I think he might.
I hope. I don't know, man. He's a head coach now. He's got time for us. But
going to be harder to get a hold of.
I will say that it's Bengals Titans in Nashville next year again. Hey, cousin Paul, just letting you know I'm coming to Nashville again. And yeah, Brian, just so you know, it'd be good to see you there. So that's exciting. That'll be a fun storyline that week. How Brian helped the Bengals become legit contenders as he's helping the Titans reestablish a culture and during their rebuild with Will Levis and insert whatever. Man, I think they're going to take a flashy wide receiver at number 7. Something tells me that's the case.
We'll see if they stay there.
Because unless they take a quarterback, you know why? Because Brian Callahan's a big reason why Jamar Chase is in town. So if for anything else,
could be Bowers too, huh? How about Bowers? That would be a target. If the top 2 wide receivers are gone, I could totally see Bowers there.
Brian, don't do it. See, this is Brian. Don't you make me come to Nashville during draft season. Anyways, all right. 0-17. All right, I'm just kidding. Congrats, my man. And yeah, this is wild. We haven't had to deal with an offensive coordinator leaving town since Hugh Jackson when he went to Cleveland. It was the last time a Bengals OC got a head coaching job. So it's been a while.
Jay Gruden in that time frame as well.
2013 paved the way for Hugh Jackson. Yeah. Jay Gruden, the man who put the game plan together to target Jermaine Gresham over AJ Green in a playoff game. Good
Getting
job,
into Twitter
Jay.
beefs with his former quarterback, with Robert Griffin III.
It's bad when they're both bad and they're beefing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's going to do it for this bonus episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast. We'll be back with more once we have more. Well, we'll be back tomorrow with the full episode. That's our normal, regular, everyday programming. We'll see if the Dan Pitcher news breaks or not in the meantime. Until then, thanks for listening. Hoo day, and have a good one.